Welcome to the Don't Die Rusty podcast. I'm Rick Hansen, and we will be talking about living, not dying. We're all on this adventure together, and we will be interviewing people who inspire us to live our best lives. People with various backgrounds who will walk us down the trails they took to not die rusty. Adventure in life are many things to many people. It could be a sprint or an endurance race, but with each adventure, we become a better version of us. We hope you keep chasing those dreams, being the best you, and of course, don't die rusty. Well, Don't Die Rusty fans, we're here for another exciting episode of the Don't Die Rusty podcast. And I'm here with Ricky Bruley.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
And we're also, and our guest is Dan Horgan.
How's it going, bud?
Good to see you guys. Yep.
I feel lucky to have you here today because I like what you're doing. I mean, we'll introduce you, but your main focus is Warrior Bonfire, correct?
Yeah, the nonprofit I currently work for. Yeah, I do communications and marketing for them, but it's a Purple Heart, a better nonprofit.
Which is, and then I think I've been to. It's funny how you never hook up, but I think I've been to. Were you ever in Big Sky or in Salt Lake?
All the time. So I make a face. Yeah, so TAC. So I signed like with the contract. So the Black Rifle Coffee that was like, I say me. I mean, that was under what I did for the event. So yeah, I was the only TACs I haven't been to actually. Rick, were South Dakota, Michigan, and Vermont.
Well, you missed out in South Dakota. I'll just say that.
That's what Paul says all the time. I know. I hear it.
Well, Paul can't say much. He'd have to go to one first, right?
I know, right? But I'll get him shooting a bow. We'll get him shooting a bow.
There you go. Well, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit, and then we'll get rolling in here, because it'd be crazy to have a conversation and nobody knows who you are.
Yeah. I am Dan Horgan. It's a really diverse background. I might look like I'm 18, but I just shaved my beard. I'm 52, and so when I say that, like, I've done a lot. So I was active duty Air Force. I was in the Air Force Reserves, in the Air Force Guard. I actually retired then from the Oklahoma Air Guard. Man, I had several different jobs, from security police in the Air Force to working the Presidential Honor Guard. So I did all the funerals for the Air Force at Arlington National Cemetery. I was actually stationed in North Dakota. So we talk about South Dakota. I was stationed in Minot from 93 to 96. Flew in AWACS. I was an enlisted aircrew guy, and I flew in the AWACS jet right at the big radar dome down in Oklahoma, to going back to security forces. 9/11, a little thing called 9/11 happened. And I did security forces for the reserves at Andrews, and then did trips down to South America. Caught a law enforcement bug, and ended up working with for the Baltimore Police Department for about 7 years, 2003 to 2010. Yeah, I was a cop in Baltimore, Maryland. And then I was in the Guard, right? I wanted to do even cooler guy stuff, so became a TAC P and got my JTAC status. And dropped bombs in 2011 in Afghanistan, so that was right cool. And but my claim, not my claim to fame, cool stuff after the military is, my wife is still in. Again, we were just talking about it. So my wife is still in, so she was Oklahoma Guard, and then she wanted to further her career. And now that I was retired in 2016, wanted to be I was her spouse, military spouse. So she took orders down here to Texas, to San Antonio. And I got picked up with Black Rifle Coffee. So I worked directly for Evan Hafer from about 2019 to shortly a little bit after we went public in 22. Did a bunch of marketing and stuff like that. And now when I left, Black Rifle was like June or July of 22, just kind of been branching out, just doing a lot of marketing stuff, a lot of veteran nonprofit work. Again, where I'm at now with Warrior Bonfire program, just doing a lot of that. And I'm sitting in San Antonio, just doing what people do in San Antonio, enjoying the heat and shaving their beards.
Well, here's the deal. I feel lucky that you can even shave your beard, because I can't grow anything. I mean, this is the way I'll never look, and I'll never have a beard, but my dad has a full beard. I mean,
you can't grow a beard?
No, I can't. Yeah, I look like a kid in puberty. There's a patch here and there's a patch there, and
right.
I probably have a soul patch over here, not right where. Yeah, one of those deals.
Mine. So I kept mine, Ricky, about your length. Not long, but it's white. It's all white, right? If people could, I don't know. Some people can see it, some people can't, right? Depending on how they listen to it. It was white all in the front. I dyed it once in Afghanistan. I was doing some contract work in Afghanistan, and I dyed it, and I kept the Just for Men in too long. I looked. That's, you laugh. I did. I looked like Randy Macho Man Savage. It was all dark, and it was pretty silly.
Looked like it was painted on or something.
Yeah, yeah. So now I shaved, right? Everybody. I mean, there's people that are being nice, going, "Oh, you look younger," and I'm like, "Cool." So maybe I'm like my 40s, but it's this right here. If you can see, it's that under the chin thing. I'm staring at myself, being very self conscious since I just did this on Monday.
I tell you what, when I shave, we were talking about this before, and like, so when I shave my beard off, my wife hates it because I look like I'm 10. Yeah. Like seriously, look like I'm 10.
Right.
It's
my wife looked at me, so
freaky.
I didn't tell my wife I was doing it. Yeah, and I came down, and I got the you're gonna grow that back, right? I mean, it'll grow back in 2 weeks. So I'm like, yeah. With that look, yes, I will grow it back, dear.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I was just thinking of the Randy Macho Man Savage thing though, and I could hear you walking around going, "Oh yeah."
I did. You're only supposed to leave it in, like if people have done it, like you're only supposed to leave it in like a certain amount of time, like a minute and a half, 2 minutes. And I think I left it in I let like 5 minutes. So super dark, yeah. I have a picture. I flew home, and so when you contract work in Afghanistan, I had to fly through Dubai, and I have a picture of me when I was in Dubai with it. Yeah, it's dark.
Well, I'm just jealous that you could even. I just am jealous,
Oh yeah, well it'll be back in 2 weeks. Like actually, when I'm staring at myself being that guy, like I can already tell, like from Monday, it's already starting to be sandpapery.
Nope, nothing there. So anyway.
No. Yeah.
So
I don't think, as we talked to, I don't think Paul could grow a beard. Just if we talked, right? Paul's been on the show. I don't think Paul's ever grown a beard. I don't know if he could.
Well,
he's got like a soul patch, doesn't he?
Does he? I don't.
Or no.
No, he doesn't.
Real. Weird.
No, he's shaved. Yeah.
Well, now after this, I'm definitely gonna have to tell him that we talked, and then if he's ever grown a beard.
Yeah, we'll have to ask him that. I actually saw him a couple of weeks ago and having coffee. Yeah. So
yeah.
What's interesting though is how we hook up. Like, Paul, and then you knew Fiona, and
Fiona's great. Yeah,
she is. So and she had quite a story there, and she's a great person too.
Yeah. No, she was. I would tell you, like, as we go off on different tangents, the Black Rifle crew that we had all working, we all left kind of different times, different reasons, whatever. But yeah, but we still, like, the camaraderie, tribe, you want to call it, is still there. Like, I follow Fiona, and she's, bouncing around doing stuff. Same thing with Paul, right? And doing things. And so it's cool, like, to still be in touch, right? Air quotes, still, with people and follow them.
Yeah, that's cool.
That is very cool, and so yeah, it's interesting how it's such a small world actually, and in this day and age we talk about 6 degrees of separation, and I don't even know if sometimes it's not even 6 degrees with the people.
No, yeah.
We are very lucky to know, Ricky and I are very lucky to have these conversations and then know the people we know to get to talk to people. So
yeah, no, so I just was in, right? I know you guys might have saw, but other people. I was just in Idaho on a retreat for the nonprofit down in North Fork, right? And so we're down there, but then I didn't realize how close Frenchtown was to Missoula. So we flew into Missoula, and I knew Josh is up there with Montana Knife Company. I texted Brandon, but that was like the day after. So it was the 5th of July, and he's like, ugh, like nobody's here. But then Jay Fain, Jay was on the trip with me. Jay's an amputee, Purple Heart friend, and he knows Josh as well and stuff. And so we were actually able to get up there, right? and I knew that he knew him, but I didn't know that Jay was even getting a hold of Josh, and we were packing up, and he's like, "Hey man, we have time?" Josh said we can get on the podcast with him.
Well,
I was like, yeah. And then Lacey Whitehouse. Lacey was a photographer for Black Rifle. Lacey lives like in the North Fork area.
Well, that is.
And I don't know if you guys ever, So she takes like photographs for like what she used to, stuff like Everly Stock and like Anthem snacks and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But she DM'd me afterwards. She's like, I didn't know you were here. Like I live in like that area. That's not a really heavy populated area, right? If you've ever been up there.
So that's,
yeah. So it is crazy just, how like small, but then like big and however, yeah.
So Dan, tell us a little bit about Warrior Bonfire. Speak a little bit about that, how it started.
Yeah, I'm not a sales guy, right? So I won't be all salesy, but it's a veteran nonprofit. But it's specific, right? So there's like 45,000 veteran nonprofits nowadays, which seems like a lot, but then it also seems like there's not enough. But Warrior Bonfire program supports Purple Heart recipients and their wives. So I didn't know, and I don't know if you guys know, so I'll just explain that. So to get a Purple Heart, you have to be wounded in combat. So, for example, I don't have a Purple Heart, but I've been in combat, and I've been blown up, but I literally don't have any marks. Now I have a VA rating, right, for PTS and things like that. But I don't have, a cut, and I didn't have stuff, any wounds. And we say that, they gotta be the wounds. The VA, the Purple Heart, there's actually like a thing like the military order of the Purple Heart, like it has to be wounds. And I don't think just like even TBI can count. It might. You'll have to excuse me for that. So anyway, so when I go into a Purple Heart, it's, a military person, guy and gal, who while in combat, has been wounded. Right. And the most are IDs, like Jay, like Jay's an amputee, right? I mean, duh. But there's guys that have all limbs, but they've been shot. There's a one here, and I'm not laughing and smiling, but Gennaro's a friend, and he's a Purple Heart here, Marine Corps veteran. He got shot like 5 times, right? I know other guys, like shot twice. You're like, God, yeah.
That's amazing.
So anyway, it is. So you have to have a Purple Heart, and we do their spouses too. So we have some spouse retreats, and we do retreats. So there's small group retreats, 4 to 6 of them, and they will, 99% of the time usually be like an outdoor experience. So we just were in North Fork, the Salmon River there in Idaho area, and we did some rafting, and then we did some fly fishing, right? And so they're usually like a 4-day event. But the kind of the culmination, what really makes it where you get the bonfire from, is per the U.S. code, when a U.S. flag is old and needs to be retired, burning is the preferred method on retiring a U.S. flag. So we have a ceremony, right? And VFW troops, do it, Boy Scout troops do it, things like that. But it's what we incorporate. And so we have hundreds. Our president is Mike Foss. Mike's been doing it for 11 years. We have hundreds of flags that need to be retired. And so we take these on each retreat, and they get cut up into the red, white, and blue stripes. And the participants will it's a whole ceremony, right? It's written out, right? Like it talks about the code and what the U.S. flag means. We say the Pledge of Allegiance, and then you go into like, these are the blue stripes, these are the red stripes and white stripes. And what it does, and without, and I'll just, because I'm a rambler too, as we get in there, what I'll do is I end myself is you end up laying each stripe in, and you can remember, and that's where it comes to. It gets to the therapy of it, to being able to say goodbye to someone you lost. Like, I wear a bracelet. My good friend Brad was killed the year before I went to Afghanistan. So I went to Afghanistan in 2011. Brad was killed in 2010. So I would say Brad's name. I had another friend, Josh, like suicides and things. And so it's a way, right, to do it. And then you do that. And then, afterwards you're there again with the same people, right, who have been through, what you have been, and they know what that experience is, and right, and can talk about it. So that one, I say little ceremony, isn't really so little, right? It's a culmination when you're spending, a solid weekend with, some guys and gals, or even couples, right? We do couples and spouses who know and can share, and you get to open up. And we have a motto, right? So it's pain. Make sure I say it right. Pain shared is pain divided. Joy shared is joy multiplied. So these weekends aren't just like, oh, it's, one little fun excursion. You guys want whitewater rafting and fly fishing. That's so cute. It's not that at all. It is, you're sitting around that bonfire, and again, you're sharing your pain to divide it between you guys, and again, gals, and then being able just, again, when you go on these the rafting or the fly fishing part of it, you're able to spread that joy because you're all there, and it really, it really is. Yeah. Anyway, I could sit there and talk all day about it, but that's the Warrior Bonfire program.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Just everything that you guys are doing, and man, it's great. You learn something new every day. I mean, my dad was a Vietnam veteran. I grew up in a VFW, and I did not know that you guys did that. Like I think most people would probably assume like taking a flame to an American flag would be disrespecting it. But I love that you're saying that, and that we're able to kind of educate some people on that, and how that's a way to honor not only our country, but the people that, sacrificed their lives for it.
Yeah, Ricky, it is. And I'll tell you, a lot on the social media side, right? Just everything's a PR nightmare when you do something. And I haven't ever gotten it yet. So I've been with the program for about 6 months now. It's just that though, like if I share a social media post and we're putting, a stripe of the flag in, I'm just waiting, right? Oh my God. But it actually is per the U.S. code, right? It really is a thing. Like per the U.S. code, that is the preferred method on getting rid of, an old U.S. flag that needs to be retired. So yeah. And I haven't gotten it yet, which is great because just of what you said. So even though you would think, right, and I know that a lot of people think that, like, oh my God, you're burning the flag, and you're like, it's an old flag, it has to be burned, right? And then I would even tell you, I didn't get there, and I'll end it with. So we have a bigger urn that has all the ashes from every bonfire we've done, so every retreat we've done. So so the one I just was on was 198 of them, and so the leader of the trip will be sent a small little urn, and it'll have some ashes in there, but it's ashes from the main one, right? The big one we have that has all the ashes from a minimum. And so he or she, the trip leader, will throw them in before they do their ceremony. And then when the flag burns, they scoop those ashes back in and send that little urn back to us. And then we put it back in. So each bonfire is really a culmination of all of them together. Yeah.
That's cool. That's a really unique way to do it.
It is. It's yeah, it is. Thank you. I didn't come up with it. So we've been around since 2013. Dan Fordyce is the founder. Dan is an Army veteran, lives out of Mississippi. He formed it. Mike was an Army buddy of his, and then Mike's been the president. He took it over then, and so it's been like 11 years.
Do you do most of these in the like in the wild, like, or you know what I mean? Like you are in Idaho. Where else do you do your, your retreats?
Yeah, Rick, they're nationwide. I mean, I tell you, it's coast to coast. So God, I'm trying to think. We had one in Norfolk, Virginia, right? They went to a hockey game, and then up like to Williamsburg and toured that history. We have one in San Diego. It's actually coming up. I believe that's our couples one. So that's in San Diego. I obviously was just in Idaho. I know we have like 2 in Colorado that we do. John, you think Mississippi, and they do the gambit. And when I say that, right, there's nonprofits that are just hunting, right? Project Healing Waters, fantastic one, love those guys, but they're just it's fly fishing. Ours could be fly fishing, the whitewater rafting, the snowmobiling, the skiing, to touring in a historical, site and, things like that. So, yeah.
Well, that's where Ricky and I think we get most of our pieces from being out in the wild or here and there,
Yeah.
But
well, and I'm an archery nut, and with me getting into archery, and I want to do one next year, taking from my black rifle days, and I want to do. We had if you guys remember, we had one called the Veteran Adaptive Athlete Shoot.
Yep.
And I want to do that for our Purple Hearts. So I want to probably get like 4 or 5 Purple Hearts that said, "Hey man, I've never shot archery before, and I want to get them a bow, and I'm going to teach them archery, and then I want to take them to the TAC." Obviously, when I think about logistics, I'll probably do it here in San Antonio and do the San Antonio TAC. But that's that is a retreat, just because I know for me archery, I picked it up 5 years ago from Evan giving me my first bow, and and I can point, and it's sitting up there, and I shoot, and I love it.
And what's interesting? Yeah. I mean, I don't know if we could set this up, but we talked to Matt Stutzman, who wants to go to a TAC, and he's the armless archer. He's going to the Paralympics. He was born without any arms.
Is that his feet?
He shoots with his feet.
Feet, yeah.
I mean, and hopefully we're going to get him to attack to shoot with us, but it'd be interesting for a guy that's been that way all of his life.
Yeah, but here's my thing, and I don't want to get in this rabbit hole, but we can. But like, how does he get around? Because TACs are not adaptive friendly.
Well, he
still can walk.
He can walk. He just has no arms.
Okay.
He'd have to take off his shoes every shot.
Okay, I guess that was naive on my part to think that. Okay.
and they're well, it's funny because I did the same thing, because when Rick first started telling him about that, I was like, how's he gonna oh wait a minute, that's right, he does still, it's not like
like his legs, and he walks fine. Okay, yeah.
But then there is some terrain, man.
Jonathan Lopez, a friend of mine, Jonathan Lopez, I don't know if you guys know him. Jonathan's an amputee high up, and so he doesn't do a prosthetic, and he shoots with his teeth with one hand. Yeah, phenomenal. Yeah.
And I'd like to get back when you do the ceremonial burning of the flag. It's because we're supposed to take down any tattered flag, and when it so people should
unserviceable. Like in the military, it'd be like old and unserviceable, right?
Exactly.
So when you see a flag flying and it's torn, kind of cool, right? I mean, it's old and it's torn, but really it becomes unserviceable, and you should take it down, and then burning. So there is, like I said, there's actually U.S. code, and U.S. code says that's what the preferred method of destroying the flag is, by burning it.
And I think, well, both of you know that I love the red, white, and blue, so I kind of put it out there for people to see too. I mean, my flag's not tattered, and the other things I wear with red, white, and blue aren't tattered either. So, but
sure.
But I'm proud of this red, white, and blue, and I'm proud of the people that have served. And I'm really, I mean, any of these. Like you said, I think you said 45,000, but
about something like that.
If we can help any of those, that can help any of the people that are letting us fly our flags and being free, I mean, that's where we need to think about this. I mean, and we're lucky to have you on here, but what inspired you to get into the military in the first place?
Well, it's deep. When I say that, it's deep because I got 3 boys here at home with me, and I actually just asked, like, not even a lie, I just asked my soon-to-be 12-year-old, he just turns 12 in August, like, I said, which one of the 3 of you do you think is going to join? I was like, because one of you better, right? Your mother and I have served, right? I mean, she's still serving, right? And I was like, one of you better serve, and he's like, I don't know. But for me, I don't know. Like, it was, and I say it was weird. So I went to an all boys sport coat tie high school, right? Private high school. My mother worked 2 jobs and put me through. It's called Calvert Hall College High School. It's in Towson, Maryland. Great school. Graduated that. Actually went to college for a year, and I'll say it like it's a long story. But went to college for a year. Just didn't feel it, and ended up coming home and was literally sitting at a community college, and then I saw the A-10s flying. So the Maryland Air Guard has A-10s, right? So if you guys are familiar, the A-10's a beautiful aircraft with a huge machine gun that they built around, and saw that flying, and I literally, what was it, like 19 and a half, and I just went to the recruiter. I didn't tell my mother. I didn't consult my mother. I walked in. I did my own research. I would tell you I wanted to be a PJ, so pararescue, if you guys are familiar. So I wanted to be the cool guy saving like the downed pilot. I have glasses now, but I'm only like 20/40 now. I had surgery way back when, and it's good. But back in the day, like then, 1991, I had they called them the BCGs, right? The birth control glasses. So like I saw the E on the eye chart, right? Like I had the thick glasses. I saw the E on the eye chart. I come into the Air Force open general contract. That's why I don't have a contract. I'm just like, yep, I want to join. And so now remember this too, 91, I joined in November of 91. November of 90, I joined, and I'm in the delayed enlistment. It was January of 91. The Desert Storm kicked off.
Yep.
And I already had a basic training day. So I went to basic training February of 91. So I left for basic training like when the Desert Storm kicked off. Anyway, so the PJs, I get down there and I'm like, yep, I want to be a PJ. And they're like, sit down, Four Eyes. They was like, I was way beyond what the limit was. And so that crushed my dreams. But yeah, and then from there, and then I stayed in. Obviously I sort of bounced around. I was straight active duty, real active duty for almost 9-10 years, and did the reserves and then the guard. The military calls it the total force, right? And that's what it is. Like everybody now is really doing the same jobs, because the whole weekend warrior thing is not a thing. Like I worked my butt off just as much as any active duty TAC P kid did. But yeah, so I don't know. I joined, and it was just under that. It was under that premise. I was, my dad worked at Pepsi, the Pepsi plant in Baltimore, and drove a forklift for like 40 years. Well, my mother was like an accountant, and she, like I said, worked 2 jobs, put me through that school. I don't know. I mean, it's just, I'm an only child, so that usually explains a lot too. We laugh a lot of my mannerisms and probably ego and selfishness because I'm an only child. So, but yeah, I joined but then I became a cop even too. And you're like, I'm like people like now lately I've been talking to people about that. They're like, that's like double like serving your community. And I was like, yeah, I guess like it just feels natural.
Because I mean, we're relatively similar in age. I'm 56. But
you got a few years, but yeah.
And it's funny. I asked these questions because my goal was to go to play college football. That was my, that was my focus. And in those days, this is before NIL, but you watch Johnny Be Good on TV, in the movies, and you're thinking, I don't have to I can go to class, but I'm going to get grades because I'm a football player, going to get the girls,
right.
going to be able to party. It's going to be like Blue Mountain State. And, and I it was probably like Blue Mountain State, except I didn't get the grades, didn't get the girls, and played little football. I partied. I really partied, but then you grow up, and then I went back to school after that and got my degrees. But I'm just saying sometimes I look back and I go, if you might have joined the military, maybe you would have a different life you have now, and so it's interesting to ask the people in my age group, what inspired you? Because it would be, like you said, it's the first Desert Storm, and I'm just going, if I would have been a little younger, we'll just say, at 2001, would have I enlisted then, because
right.
But who knows what's going on? But it's interesting to listen to you tell us, what inspired you to do that.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like, I've done only a few podcasts, and it's not like I'm not, I don't know, Sean Ryan. Like I don't do podcasts, and so when I say that, I've never really talked too much about some stuff, but I would like, as we get into this, I went away to college to be a writer. So I went to the University of Bridgeport, and God, when I tell the story, my wife obviously knows it, but I don't think my girlfriend, when I tell the story, then will ever maybe listen to this. But if she does, it'd be funny. We follow each other on Instagram. I went away to college to be a writer. Like I wanted to write, so I wanted to write for Marvel Comics. I still have the letter where I wrote to them, and they wrote me back. And that was a thing. And I was like, great. Right. And so Bridgeport's close to the New York area and everything. And I actually wrote for the college newspaper. So a girl and we had our own little column called The Writer's Block. And we wrote poetry for the college newspaper up there for the University of Bridgeport. If anyone can find, what was that? That would have been 90. That would have been the fall of 90. And I had a girlfriend back in Maryland, Tara, right? So if like I said, if she ever listens to this, Orndorff was her last name. So Tara, I came home but we broke up like shortly after coming home. And then I was at that community college, and that's when I saw the planes. But you look at that story, like you said, though, like, well, what if I would have stayed? Like you can ask yourself, like, what if I would have stayed in college?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And got my, bachelor's in creative writing. Would I have written like Marvel's Endgame, right? Would I be a writer? Like, am I a writer? Am I a billionaire, Marvel guy, or, who knows what, right? It's so weird, but like, I don't, yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty wild because I distinctly remember, 17 trying to make that decision, which way you're going to go. I took the ASVAB. I did, I was like, I had a cousin that was, I looked up to that was in the Marines, that, my uncle was in the Air Force. My dad was in the Air Force. Like I said, I grew up in the VFW. So that was like kind of my direction. But then I also had this other option where I could go to college in Duluth, Minnesota, and I was going to go for art, graphic design, scratch the creative itch. And I just remember literally just sitting there and kind of just going, well, I guess I'm just going to go do art. And then that's what I decided to do. And then throughout that whole process, there was multiple times where I'm like, I had this bug, like, where it was like I walked into a recruiting center probably at least a half dozen times.
Really?
Got the flyer and stuff and walked out and was just reading it. And then pretty soon one day I was just too old to do it. So, and for whatever reason, the good Lord just didn't want me to do it because there was a door would open, and then it's like, oh, okay, I guess I'm going this way now. So,
sure.
No,
and that's, even with your guys' show, to Don't Die Rusty, it's just, don't die with regrets. And then hopefully you don't have any. Like, I don't have any. Like, not finishing out that creative writing, whatever. There's a lot of decisions. I would tell you, like, I was still in the Guard, and they wanted me to stay. And at that point, I was hitting, 24 years, and I was like, I'm going to retire. But I don't regret retiring. I just, you can't, yeah.
What's interesting to me is to learn the flick of the switch. It's what directions we go in life, and the flick of the switch for anybody. I don't regret because I got to live in Australia. I got to travel. I got to do what I wanted to do on my, on my own, and do this and that. But it's interesting to hear other people's versions of what flicked their switch. What
you don't even want, Rick, I don't know if you've seen, you probably haven't, because I haven't shared too much, even like when I say on like social media. I've had 6 jobs in the last 2 years. 6, right? And back in the day, like the job hopping, and now it's a little bit more acceptable, but yeah, you talk about flicking that switch, right? And people listening to this, if I'm not, and I know where I want to be, I'm old enough to know what it is, right? And I'm willing to take a chance, take a risk. And then obviously those companies are willing to take that chance and risk on me as well. But I would say out of those 6, like, it's definitely majority been me being like, nope. And then flicking that switch.
Right,
nope.
fit.
Next. Yeah. Like, I'm out. And again, nothing bad, but like, I know. I would tell you one, I'll talk about that real quick. One was, it's called We Are the Mighty. It's a military digital media. Great guys and gals there. I love them. I still do. It was more sales. And then I had a really high quota eventually after, some of the initial stuff. And I looked at that number and the sales part of it. And I was like, no, I could talk to people and I can do some things. I go, but I'm not a quota driven sales guy. So I was like, again, flick that switch. Peace. I'm out.
Well, and it's like Ricky and I here. I mean, we don't have any sponsors yet, and
Sure.
but Ricky and I have talked, and I don't want to have a sponsor that I don't believe in.
Yeah.
I
Sure.
mean, yes, I would like to have some sponsors here, but you know what I mean.
It's got to be authentic. It's
It
got to
has to
be,
be
yeah. You
authentic.
want it authentic, yeah.
And I think, but on the other side of this, the "Don't Die Rusty" mantra that you were talking about earlier is not just keep on moving in life and fulfill your dreams, and you know, that's fulfilling us right now, and
Sure.
and who we have on here, like we've had, I mean, like we're lucky to have
Oh,
the
yeah.
guests we've had, but
Yeah.
if we can keep on inspiring this, I'm hoping, because this is my dream, that this becomes something bigger,
Sure.
and
Right. Right.
a movement maybe, or bigger than what we are. But but that's just what this is about. I'm going off on a tangent now, but
No, 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 yeah, 100%. Sharing those people's stories. Like I actually just for you guys, I was listening to Kyle Kraft,
yeah,
and when I don't know Kyle personally, but people do, right? Obviously, Paul
yeah,
knows him. Our friend Kurt Summers,
yeah,
Kurt knows him well, and stuff like that. But it's nice to listen to, right? Because you
yeah,
guys aren't just military, obviously, right? I mean, you had Fiona. Now Fiona was Coast Guard, in New Zealand, so I'll give
yeah.
her that a little bit. But Paul wasn't, right? If Fiona listens to this too, she's like, Danny. Not many people in this world call me Danny. I would say my mother, probably Evan, and now that I think about it, like I think Fiona's called me Danny a few times. Danny boy for sure. Paul calls me Danimal. Right, it's one of those things. No, but you aren't just military, and so to even listen like the Kyle stuff, and right because the truck racing is pretty unique, right? There's not a lot of people out there driving those trophy trucks, but it's super cool to watch and see that out there, right? Yeah.
And then that's where we want to be. We want to be able to have a various, diverse group of guests,
Yeah.
that are putting it out there. They have different ideas and stuff, and how they are not dying rusty, and
No. Well, and Rick, I would tell you, even coming on when we talked about coming on, and I was, and I know the show, and I just was like, am I dying rusty? Because I would tell you right now, right? While I'm doing stuff with Warrior Bonfire, it's great, but I'm like, what am I doing? Like, am I doing? I don't want to die rusty, but it is a good thing to think like you need not to be rusty. Like, keep doing something. Yeah, you're laughing, but like it is for me at our age. Start thinking about it. You're like, man, I don't want to just fade away. Yeah.
And you want to know something interesting? This morning I got to work and I got this phone call, and I was going, huh. He hardly ever calls me, and I had this call, and he says, you know what, Rick, I was thinking about you, and you have a great day, and don't die rusty, because that's what I was thinking about. I'm moving on, keeping moving forward. And it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
it was quite an interesting conversation, and actually it was Jeff Helm, Ricky.
Oh, Jeff. Yeah. Yeah.
You know
I don't get
Jeff?
to see Jeff nearly. Yeah, and I don't get to see him nearly as much. And I point. He's up in Bernie. He lives in Bernie. Bernie's like 30 minutes from me, but he hunts like a lot.
Yeah.
And while I do archery, like I don't get to really hunt a lot. Yeah. No, Jeff's great.
Yeah, and he
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it was just interesting that he called me up and said that, and I was like,
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah.
that means we're, if people think about "Don't Die Rusty," if we can get that in some people's minds, that's where we're at
Yeah.
there. And it was
We need to
quite
get him
interesting.
on. I mean, I'm sure you have a list. You got to get him and then like Isaac, right? So if you guys,
Yeah.
Ahmed, right? So yeah,
Yep.
Isaac, right? You got to get, yeah. But again, though, you don't want to get too nichey, right? Those guys are gonna be all about hunting and archery.
And it's interesting.
Trying to spread it out a little bit.
Yeah, we're trying.
Right. If you do, right, just spread them out so they're not back to back.
But I mean, although we don't really talk about archery, I mean, we don't talk about. It's more we talk about life. So
Yeah.
archery's part of the life, but we talk about life, and actually we
Sure.
didn't even talk about much archery when Jeff talked to me today. Is like we were talking about
Yeah.
other parts of life that were interesting. So,
Sure.
yeah. And so, but no, this is.
I don't get to shoot as often as I do, but I probably would every day. Like if I had, I don't know, 50 or 100 acres that I lived on or something, I would walk out my back door, right? And people could say too, right? Well, there's, don't use excuses, because I actually have a foam target. I have a Lena target. I'm pointing at it right here. I mean, I probably could get 20 yards. I bet in my backyard, but like I get egotistical again from shooting with people that have shot a lot and doing these tacks. Like if I'm not shooting 60, I'm like, it's nothing. And I'm just performance home, so I'm not hitting 12s. So, but I'll tell you, but like if it's not a challenge and it's not like 60, you're like, whatever, dude. So when I say that, like if I could, when I talk about archery, I would. I mean, I got my bow up in the office, and I love it. I just you don't get out that often.
Well, that's when you talk about going on the retreats and the stuff.
Yep.
Like we talk about being in the wild, and we talked with I don't know if it's Melissa or Ray, Dr. Ray about this, but Jensen, but it was with Melissa, where you're when you're focused on that target, when you're focused on shooting, there is nothing else in your mind, and it's like that Matrix place, we'll say, since we're talking about comic books here, the Matrix place,
everything just shuts off, right? Like it's just everything.
But that's nature.
Clear,
yeah,
and you're focused.
But guys, that's nature. But even so, again, Idaho. I did a trail run with my buddy Cameron. Cameron was on this trip. He lives up in Darby. I think it's on the Montana border side of it, right there. But anyway, and we're running on this trail, and it's my place of peace, like being in the evergreen mountains and sunshine. And he's like, he said, he goes, "This is what I want to do." And I was like, "Yes." I'm like, "But how do you get somebody to pay you just to run on dirt trails and mountains?" But as we talk about archery, how do I get somebody? Like, I'm not a John Dudley, right? You got to, make your archery brand or something. Like, how do I just get people to pay me to go to tacks and shoot tacks?
Yeah.
I've been working on that for a long time, man.
Bro, if I can find, right? If I can get one, I would tell you PSE. So PSE, I shoot a PSE. I was friends with Pete and his daughter Jenny. Yeah, I always just like, if you guys need a guy.
Maybe all three of us could go, and we could just say, "Hey, this is the crew you want to hang out with and talk to," and maybe we could just go to tacks and shoot.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, but again, archery though. Just and so for me, it's I say it's therapeutic. I mean, I go to real therapy and talk, but like archery is like, Ricky, like you're saying, like you're in. I mean, you can be outside or inside, right? But mainly you're probably outside. And if you're outside, you already got the nature at you, the sun and right, the air, and the trees, and whatever it is. And now you have to focus on the target. You're not wearing ear pro, right? There's no loud bang, right? It's not a gun. And you're focused, and right, and then hitting your target, like as long as you hit your target, you get that reward back, right? So foam is home is one of our funnier sayings, but when you hear that foam thunk, and it's such the relief. But now I can go down and I can get my $8 or $10 or $12 arrow back.
Yep.
Right. Unlike a piece of lead, right, that's just blowing a hole in a target, and then you're not really getting it back. I mean, I guess you can reload, blah blah blah, but it's not the same.
And it's way better than a couch, because between those shots and between the targets, there's the therapy that goes on with the conversations between people as you go down the hill.
Oh,
or mountain.
I mean, just the tacks alone. But I would tell you, even like I'll go shoot. So Camp Bullis is an Army joint base that's here in San Antonio, and they have an outdoor range. And my wife, she actually started shooting a couple of years ago too. Jason Tabansky, Jason's on the Paralympic USA team. One of them, I think there's different archery, but Jason lives here in San Antonio. And anyway, he gave my wife a bow, and she'll shoot, but I'll take my youngest out with us, and you're out with them. Yeah, and you're outside, right? And you're walking down to the targets 60 yards and back and pulling the arrows and things like that. So it's, yeah, like, and again, I need to do it more than I do, but it's just, time always becomes a factor.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, my office is like, I don't know, maybe 60 feet from a 40-yard indoor range, and I don't shoot either. So,
and he works in an archery place.
Yeah, but I will say, I will say that it is a lot more fun doing it outside.
Oh yeah, TAC. So Sean, right? So I've known Sean for the past 4 years, and for TAC, and it's it hit that business model, that concept, that whole thing is just, for me, beyond. Like, it is like Big Sky, in Colorado, to be able to go up the chairlift that you take the ski lift up and then zigzag your way down to say 3 miles is phenomenal. And even here in Texas, right, there's no chairlift, but it's up at a Natural Bridge Caverns is a nice little area, and you get out there. Yeah, I make the face. I'm looking at myself. Yeah, it is beyond. Yeah, it's just great. That's all I can say. Yeah.
And it is. And I mean, Ricky and I mean, we talk about TAC all the time, I mean, Sean and I are good friends, and we've known each other, I think, 15 years, and
oh wow, yeah, okay.
It's crazy.
Did you know like Kelly and Rustin too, Rick?
Yeah, I hang out with Kelly and Russ all the time. They stay with us.
Do you?
Yeah.
God, man, I missed them this year. They didn't come out to Oklahoma. They didn't have a tent out in Oklahoma. I think we're Texas, so, but yeah. Yeah, good people there too. And you get into that. We'll go down that rabbit. Good people at archery. I don't think I've ever really met like a tool too much in any of the archery stuff that I've done.
Yeah, there's a few, but
we just shot him and left him.
Tax are usually pretty good.
I haven't met them, but I've met beyond phenomenal people. Right, Russ and Kelly are again 2 people that did so much, for me. Right,
they're awesome.
To the guys at Kafaru.
Big Sexy.
Right, great people. To Dana, like I used to work with Dana, but Dana now works at SIG Monroe, right? So like just people that are, and then Sean and his wife, and then the whole crew, right? Ron and Frank,
right. And I want to get back to Kelly and Russ though for a second, because here's the thing that people don't know. I mean, Kelly and Russ. Kelly owns Badass Outdoor Gear. Kelly's the lady. Kelly's badass. I'm not knocking Russ, but Kelly's badass. But
she wears the pants now.
Yeah, she does. But where I'm going with this, people don't know how much they give back to organizations that like the Warrior. The veteran organizations,
Warrior Rising,
Warrior Rising, and or an RMEF or whatever else they're in. And, Kelly and Russ give a lot back to these places, and I'm Badass is just I mean we've known each other for well over 10, 12 years now, and and they're always like being friends, like when we're ever in Salt Lake, stay at their house or traveling through, or we hang out. But those are the kind of people we get to do these things at Total Archer Challenge, and where I'm going, and it's not just an archery thing, because that goes into the Warrior Rising, or it goes into everywhere else, and that keep people moving.
Yeah. No, and I would tell you, and again, it's while I only knew them or know them in that capacity, it's like literally like they're friends, like that I would have like my high school friends. Like again, like when I went to Oklahoma and they weren't there this year, it was like, and I didn't talk to them beforehand, but it was a sense of like, oh, I'm going to see them, just because I thought, and they weren't, but it was like because they are just like so nice and so genuine, good people.
Yes.
That's how I felt about Tommy and Dara, because I thought they were going to be at Terry Peak and they weren't there. And I was
they weren't there.
what?
Yeah. No, Tommy and Dara are great too, right? I mean, and that's, I think, again, what they're doing, and that's what, Sean and I, we've talked even, and because TAC isn't a veteran event, but it was so nice during the BRCC days to kind of bring maybe a little, hopefully extra, veteran touch to it. But again, even with me, I would tell you, right? I mean, I have my problems, but for me, archery again it's Ricky, like you were saying, it's the focus and the stress relief for it that I love it. And TACs are the same. Like, so now I always do Oklahoma and Texas, and I wanted to do a third one this year, and I didn't have the chance to. But I told my wife after Texas, I was like when we planned vacation and money and everything, I was like, I want to do a third. Like, so I either want to do like Big Sky or Colorado, right? Maybe something like that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then you keep on skipping South Dakota because it has Dakota in it, just because you were in Minot, North Dakota. We're a little further south,
like
all right?
40 miles from the Canadian border.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you don't say A or.
Oh, I was only there 2 years. My daughter was born there. I have a daughter from my, right, I say the military marriage. It's a joke thing. Most military guys get divorced. I was married 3 years, but my daughter was born up in Minot. But I got us out of there as quick as we could, just for the sheer fact that it wasn't helping anything.
So you don't eat lefse and you don't say, don't you know? And okay.
No, but I know stuff though. When I say I know stuff, I know that like plugging your car in, if I ever see a car, like people think electric cars, well, back in the day, like you had to plug your car in to keep it warm, like the block heaters, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You used to keep your car running at like a 7-Eleven, and you didn't have that fear. First of all, there's only like 10,000 people that live in the town, but you didn't have a fear of someone stealing your car.
No.
You left it running. The backyard, my backyard, I lived on base. My backyard, I had a chain link fence. The snow got so high that when I let my dog out, like it just was even. So back in the winter, it's not even like, I don't even know why I have a fence. It was dumb. Like the snow was just straight out in the backyard. Literally, like it's not even joking. Like it was like the dog would just do just straight. It's crazy.
I know exactly what you're talking about because I grew up in Crookston, Minnesota, and it's roughly the same latitude.
Yeah,
not too far from Canada.
But you should think about South Dakota because we have Mount Rushmore. We have the Black Hills.
I'd need something. I don't know. Like you're saying that, I'm hearing you.
Deadwood.
It's just not.
The Colorado
Big Sky though, like Big Sky, Montana.
Well, I agree with Big Sky. I do agree with Big Sky because, to be honest, Snowbird was my favorite.
Okay. Yep. Oh yeah.
You walk out, you get to the top of the mountain at Snowbird, and there is a view there, isn't there?
That view of the
was Snowbird the one that's like at 10,000 or a little over 10,000, or was that? Yeah,
it's over 10,000, and
like you got. No, yeah.
You got the view.
It's crazy.
But Big Sky is for views. Big Sky is my favorite.
I would tell you mine when I say this. Colorado, man, I tell you, Colorado was not only beautiful. The resort there isn't a really big resort like a Big Sky, and just the atmosphere. I loved it.
Because that's why I like Big Sky. I like Terry Peak is similar to Colorado.
Okay.
And those venues that it's just relaxed.
Right.
Because those are the places I like to go where it's not loud and noisy, and you can sit down and have a good conversation with people that you haven't seen, like you were talking about. You want to see Russell Kelly, or like Ricky or I sitting down and having a conversation with people we haven't seen, and sometimes Ricky sits down with me with people that I just met.
Yeah. God, now I think about Pennsylvania is a good one too. Actually, Pennsylvania. I'm going to Pennsylvania.
But I just think that it adds value to your life. Archery does in some aspects, like because when people talk about a sport that it's a lifelong sport, and archery can be a lifelong sport like golf or tennis or whatever else. But this one, you can either be with people or you can be alone.
Sure.
And it's peaceful either way at times.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. And that's and it's just even like my bow. It's going on 5 years old now, right? And so it's even to that point where it's like your car. If so, Jenny Shipley, that was is Pete's daughter, right? She killed me if I ever shot anything else other than a PSC. But it's like that was my first car. It was really good. I love it. But now it's just like it's getting old. Do I get a new bow? And if I get a new bow, what do I shoot?
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of cool. Like when you have the freedom to just kind of pick out whatever you want, or
well,
you
can
go around, shoot a bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
we're both shooting prime.
Yeah,
our prime. Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Right.
I shot a Mach 34 last year.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And then I had to fix my truck, so I sold it.
Yeah.
But I have many backup boats, so. I'm in good shape now. I love the bow, but it had the most value, so that's why.
Oh, sure. Yeah, because the Mach 34, that was the carbon fiber one, right?
Yeah.
So mine's the Stealth, the carbon fiber of the Stealth, the PC. Yeah.
And then we shoot vapor trail strings, Stoker eye stabilizers.
So start laying it on. You gotta get those sponsors.
Well,
I'm looking around in my office. I got Easton, right? I got arrows. I shoot Easton arrows.
Limb driver rest.
I see you got I see that I've noticed that you're shooting a limb driver Gen 7. So thank you for that.
Yeah. I do want to change my sight. I actually, for my sight, it's my first sight. It's a 3-pin. It's a Spot Hog. But again, it's 5 years old and it served me well. But man, I tell you that dialed archery, I like I'm a color guy, like as in like, I like the green, and they do have a green, like a neon green. And I got new strings. I got the neon green strings. So I was like,
yep.
I don't know. Yeah.
Are you a single pin or are you
So my Spot Hog's a 3-pin, right? 20, 30, 40. And then I can crank to about 105. That's my longest shot hitting foam. Good as a 106 yarder.
Let me tell you something. Hitting foam bad isn't a bad shot either.
It doesn't bleed,
I don't know, man.
right?
I got some pictures of like some funny ones. Like Reinhardt Targets actually shared them on their social media. It's like I got one. It was the frog, that little like red or orange frog, and I got it through the nose. I think that was Oklahoma Tack last year.
I try to keep I love archery a lot, and we seem to go there all the time. But I also love nature too, and
kayaking. I mean, we could even go to that. Like I actually love. Yeah, I got 3. I got 2 like Sam's Club paddle boards, and then I got a really expensive one from a buddy that it was involved with someone, and then a really nice kayak that's gonna sit on top, like a fishing one, but it's called Diablo Paddle Sports. I think it's like a $1,200 or $1,500 kayak, but it's so balanced, like you can stand up on it like a paddleboard. Yeah, and I actually got that through a nonprofit that isn't doing anything now, but I did like a float down the Devil's River. The Devil's River is a really pretty river, West Texas, about 3 hours here of San Antonio. Yeah, I mean, I love that. The hiking and like just running outdoors. Right. Again, when I talk to my therapist, like he said, hey, pick out a place that's like peaceful. Like, what is that for you? And for me, and I don't mind sharing, like I said, it's an evergreen forest where the trail, like I like a dirt trail, but I like the trail that has the needles on it. So it's quiet, right? A quiet trail. But with some mountains and some sun shining through those trees, stay there all day.
Well, and Ricky and I did that, did the 7 Peaks this year, and I really prefer really prefer the single tracks to anything, actually.
Yeah.
If we're going to do a trail.
it's crazy. Like, it is something. And then that's where, even Warrior Bonfire comes in with the Purple Hearts. Like, a lot aren't too outdoors like we're talking about, but we have done some and everything. But again, just even the power, like, think about, you go in your backyard with your solo stove, and you're sitting there with your family or whoever, right? And just that experience sitting around that fire, that campfire, what that is. Yeah.
They're just,
You guys should do this. Don't die rusty. You guys should sit around the campfire and tape record.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, that's been a thought.
Yep.
And
trying to do something remote.
I think it would be really interesting to have the right people to sit around that bonfire, to have so many different directions of conversation that you could go on, and talk about life and talk about just being the better self. Because that's what I really want this to do, is like, you keep on moving to better yourself. And I want to be better every day, and I want the best for that. And I think it'd be fun, like, like when we talked to Sloan and he was sitting around the bonfire and he got his questions answered.
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, it'd be fun to have Ricky I and
well, it'd be your own daytime show, right? It's I'm not making fun of, but maybe I am, like The View or, whatever, the daytime. But those are shows. But this would be a show, obviously on the other spectrum of that. But yeah, like.
Could we be happy?
Right? No, really. But how many of our audience, right, or you say that would be at home, right, watching that daytime? We wouldn't be, but but even the nighttime shows, right? How do you? Maybe this was, for you guys, this is the next David Letterman, and it's around the bonfire.
We can have 45-minute conversations on how to poop in the woods, right?
Yeah, there you go.
I would watch that. But that's the thing, though. You'd have that, right? But what? Yeah. But that's where podcasts, right? Like Sean Ryan, like Sean's podcast, doing really well. Obviously, right? Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Right? Those are doing really well. I mean, he's not in that scenario, just because, again, anyone who, Ricky, right? Like, I think you were messing with the volume, right, when you're producing a podcast. I mean, I'm sure being outside would be a nightmare, right? With ambient noise or whatever.
It's doable. I've done it. I did a bonfire chat on the Reigns podcast, and it's certainly doable.
Sure.
But yeah, if you get any amount of wind or anything like that, it definitely gets difficult.
Right.
And then you got trucks driving by and all kinds of stuff. But
I think you could set it up. We could set it up to do one, and I think it would be
absolutely.
Maybe that would be our first video YouTube thing. I don't know, about just sitting around talking about life.
I was just gonna say, like, Sean for the Turtle Tree Challenge, like he started doing the podcast, and they were doing them there.
Yeah, I'm actually getting pretty good with audio too, or fairly decent anyways. I've been forced in some situations where the audio is really bad and had to do some research and figure out how to isolate the voice and get rid of background music and stuff. And so I don't have it perfected, but I have another friend he does a podcast called Grit, and he is like silly about the sound. Like he's got it dialed. And so he's a good resource for helping you do that. That wouldn't be a problem for us.
I use CapCut, and I just hit the enhance voice button.
Yeah, that actually works pretty good, honestly. It does. It does. I use it every day. CapCut. I use CapCut every day.
Me too. Well, Ricky has taught me how to use CapCut, and Ricky needs to know the other stuff because of my technological ineptness. I learned from Ricky. I may be able to talk at times, but he knows all kinds of stuff.
Well, we're getting there. Like, I feel like I'm like there. Like, I'll give myself maybe when I hit 60. So about 7 more years. And then my kids are going to be like, "Hey, Dad, let me show you how to."
Yeah.
These tools are amazing. I mean, AI has really been helpful, but even just to dive in deep, on Premiere, and also Audition is fantastic for, pulling out different noise and all the different little tools that you can use to modify it is pretty amazing. But even the episode, Rick and I were talking about this. I had to record an episode for the range a couple weeks ago, and I literally had to record it in my car on my way home, and I was just using my headset, and the audio was awful, and I could not fix it, so I just had to deal with it. Right.
Well, that's why I had these in. So I don't ever have. I had these in. These are some Beats, right? And I was testing it before. Well, I have this is a Yeti. It wasn't like I was watching the monitor and I'm watching a little green bar and the Yeti mic was just, it was flickering, and I put these in and I'm talking to myself to it and it's going all the way over 5 bars. And I was like, guess I'm going to use these versus the mic that is specifically designed to be podcast mic is not cutting it.
No. So I know. I did a little research and listened to you on a couple of other podcasts, and
sure.
And I heard you were going to South America wasn't after
9/11.
9/11.
2002. Yeah.
Yeah. What was your favorite country in South America that you went to?
Yeah, so I got to go to Colombia, Bolivia, Chile, and Peru. In Chile, I got to run a 6K race. The plane was secure, so we got to go downtown with the rest of the air crew, and it was safe. And so that's what we were doing. I was kind of providing like the anti-terrorism security for the cargo planes. So in Chile, it was secure, and I got to go to Chile, and so we were downtown. I actually had some Chilean pesos in my little Camelback, and I was running the run, and I came across people running in a park. And a lady spoke some broken English, and I speak zero Spanish or whatever, right? And but I had some Chilean pesos on me, and I was like, and she took some, and I got a race bib number, and I ran a 6K race in Chile, so that was pretty cool. And then I got to go to Lake Titicaca. Lake Titicaca. Okay. And I can't remember. So I don't think you guys. It's Peru or Bolivia. I can't remember, but it is from. Are you going to Google it, Ricky, real quick?
I am.
It is the world's, I believe, highest navigable lake.
Sorry, it's actually both Peru and Bolivia. It splits down the middle.
So you're right on both sides.
Its surface elevation is at 12,000 feet.
Holy is that what they label it? Do they label it the highest navigable lake? That's what I always remember about.
Well, yeah, it says largest lakes and the world's highest navigable body of water.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was pretty cool. I got to be on a boat on that. Either one, because then I would tell you the third story out of those, that the other country, and this actually goes to answer your question, Colombia was probably my least favorite. But then we got hypoxic. So we were, and I can't remember if it was Bolivia or Peru, because they're both high, but one's really high. And myself and my other little security, for the plane, we were on the plane. Crew had already left, and we were doing our assessment, and we started feeling the hypoxia, right? The little high feeling. We called it secured, and we radioed back. And they're like, yeah. And we went and we did the blood test for the oxygen in your blood. Yeah, we were at 80%. We were at 80. That's not good. Yeah, I guess you're normally like 95, 97, I think, or something like that. So we were already at 80, and they were like, yeah. And they put us on oxygen for a little bit just to get back in. Really? That was cool.
That's pretty wild.
But Colombia was my least favorite because we didn't get to go out. So Colombia, I got to go to Bogota and Cartagena, and this is 2002. So 2002, they still had the FARC. So the FARC is the narco terrorism group that was really big, and they used to kidnap everybody for money.
Huh.
Yeah, and so we would brief the air crew, and it was, when I say for money, I think it was like a 30. I don't say 30 million or 30 billion, but it was like that's how the FARC made their money. They used to just kidnap everybody, right? And they would make the money in the ransom stuff. And so we would brief the air crew about it. And so, yeah, Colombia was really bad. And so we didn't get to do anything in Colombia. So that's my least favorite country.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Interesting. And you didn't see anything about Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid in Bolivia, did you?
No.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. And then I was on a trip, and this is like one of those Air Force stories when we talk about the military. We were supposed to go to Brazil, which is pretty cool. We were supposed to go to Brazil, but on the way to Brazil, the storm was coming, and for some reason we stopped, and we stopped in St. Croix, the Virgin Islands. And so we stopped, and obviously it's U.S. territory, so I don't have to guard the plane, so you're good. Well, someone, and it's not us, but they put the wrong type of chalk, for the tires, to block the tires on it.
Yep.
And so the chalk washed away, and the plane rolled, and so the aileron, right, if I remember my days, is the back part, and the aileron hit a pole. I was stuck in St. Croix for 7 days. It was really bad.
Oh, wow.
7 days in St. Croix, the Virgin Islands. That was horrible.
That'd be terrible. I mean, I can't imagine.
It was in September. I remember too, because it was my birthday, and so I was actually there for my birthday. And my wife was just like, "I hate you."
Well, I'd rather have it 7 days in St. Croix than 2 years in Minot, North Dakota.
100%. My ex-wife would definitely say the same thing. My daughter would tell you too. My daughter, she'll tell you, people, you look at social security numbers and they might see hers or something, and like, where's that? And she'll be like, North Dakota. North Dakota. Like, I thought your mom and her stepdad, I thought they lived in Florida. They do. And your dad's like Maryland or blah, blah, yeah. But no, she was born. Yeah, she was born in Minot.
How would you tell people to not die rusty yourself? To keep moving, and I just think that we need to keep this mind, body, and soul of don't die rusty moving. If you understand what I'm saying. And
yeah,
how would you tell other people to do that?
Yeah, no, that's a good one. And I don't know if I have the answer. I just never feel like I'm inspiring, but when you are saying it, and my ADHD kicks in, and I start. So that's the thing, right? My wife gets really mad, so I interrupt, and when I interrupt, I don't interrupt to be rude. I interrupt because I'm trying to think ahead, and then I'm there. Oh yeah. Anyway,
we get it.
So when you were saying it, yeah, I'm not like an inspiring guy, but when I say that though, it's like. I think about it now, it comes down to just like, and I told you before, like I kind of said it is like, what am I doing? And some of the things, not that they're cliche, but I would say first thing is don't be afraid, right? There's going to be haters, right? Paul will definitely attest to it. I'm sure Fiona would too. And so would I. There's going to be haters in this world. And so, excuse me, my pasta my wife made for dinner is coming back up. And so, when I say that, like, they're going to be haters. And so, like, it's like CrossFit, right? People make the joke, well, how someone does CrossFit? They talk about it. Well, I get it, but if it's good for you, then do it. So don't be afraid of like, oh my God, if I start CrossFit and I start talking about it. So cold plunging. So when I say that, my mother, so again, only child, radical transparency, the cold plunge tub I have, my mother bought. Okay. I mean, it's like $6,000 for that plunge tub, right? But I plunge, I'll do 2 to 3 minutes every day in about 40 to 43 degree water, right? Right. I get it. Everyone's cold plunging now, but like it is nice for me. And if I do skip a day, actually, I'll tell you, I skipped yesterday, but I dumped my head in 10 seconds twice, which I'm not sure if I would recommend, because when I came out that second time, I was a little bit dizzy. So I probably gave myself an ice headache, but it's fine. I'm fine. Right. And so when I say that, like, don't be afraid. Like, it goes back to that. Just, I mean, like, I don't want to start something because, someone's going to make fun of me or whatever. If it works for you, like do it. Right. And if it works for you and it's not harming someone else, right. Like, whatever, man. Again, people are going to hate. Like, don't let yourself be held back. Don't die rusty because you're going to look over there and be like, oh, that dude's going to make fun of me.
Yeah, whatever. That's good. I like that.
Well, it's because I would tell you, right? And not that person's a bully. Like, and I'm pointing like someone's there and there's nobody else in my office. But the person could be there, like, bullying you in a sense. You're afraid of that. Someone's making fun of that person. And I'm going to tell you, and I do have someone in my mind. I'm going to tell you right now. Someone's making fun of that person. right?
Yeah.
100%, because that person's not doing something that's always cool, or what they think is cool. Someone else is making fun of them, but then that person isn't going to have that mindset. Well, I'm not going to do, what I'm doing because this person, let's say Dan Horgan, thinks it's not cool. Well, great. Well, I'm going to do what I want to do because it's good for me, and I'm not going to die rusty. So I'm going to keep doing that. That'd be
Well,
Rick. That'd be my first thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I think that's why I always end up going to archery, because I love archery and I really don't care if we go there. I just don't want to be in that niche all the time. But
Sure.
I do believe what you're saying, because I've told my stepdaughter and I've told other people, I never want to be labeled, because I don't want to be one person, because I want to be able
Sure.
to go in many different directions. And I like what you're saying about that, is have no fear of what other people are going to say about you. That's
right.
That's where I'm going with the labeling. I don't want to be stuck.
And kids nowadays, it's a big thing. Like, I mean, again, 52, I can think of someone specifically for me that would even probably criticize, something, right? And I would say that it goes to make it a video. Like, I made that video, and I say stupid video because I can call myself a dork, right? But like, you should never, like, it should, it's anyway. But that leads into then the second thing for not dying rusty, because it's a second story I'll tell you about, is then don't be afraid to try new things, right? So first thing is, don't not try something because you're afraid of what someone else is going to think. But then also for yourself, don't try it, but don't be afraid, right? And they kind of can play hand in hand. But I'll tell you, because a guitar. So there's a nonprofit called Guitars for Vets. Great organization, and they teach you to play. Unfortunately, I've had, like you guys, we talked about some work trips coming up, and it's like 10 weeks, and I know zero about music. So I'm really starting, which is fine, right? But now I'm missing like 5 out of the 10 classes. And so I wasn't afraid to try and then get accepted, right? I mean, I didn't take anyone's spot. They had plenty of room for me. But again, I had to try. And I went and I did a class, but then I saw my schedule, and then I realized, like, hey, I can't. And so, again, then talked to the instructor for the class here in San Antonio, and I was like, hey, I can't do it. And they're like, hey, like, A, thanks for telling us, but like, B, like, come back and try it when you do maybe have a schedule. And maybe I will, all right, because it is a bucket list. I've always wanted to play the guitar. And I say that this is my, people can see, this is my son's Fender. And then I brought that to the class, and they were like, we're going to start on acoustic guitars. So, but it goes into that, though, is don't be afraid. Right. I mean, right. Because now if you're thinking to yourself, oh, well, someone's gonna make fun of me, or then, now you're thinking into like, oh, I don't know if I can do that, or I don't know if I want to do that. Like I said, like, I applied, got accepted, went to the class, and then it just, like, there's circumstances, right? Life can get in the way. And I'm definitely not going to give up on it. But like, that would be I think those two kind of definitely go together. To not die rusty would be those. You gotta have that mindset.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
I really like that too, because I believe that we should try all kinds of new things, and if you don't like doing it, then you've learned that you don't like doing it, And
yeah,
we're doing this podcast. I may not be great at it, but we're working on getting better. But I enjoy talking to people, and that's the best thing there. And the second thing is, I do know a little bit about music. It's good music is country and Western. Those are the two things.
I don't know, man. I'm an '80s kid. God, like I want to. That's what I told him. We had the first class. He was like, "Well, what do you want to play?" And I was like, God, I probably want to play like Wanted Dead or Alive, like Bon Jovi on the acoustic would be. Living on a Prayer or something like that. God.
We went
power chords, and the 1-4-5. That's all you need to know.
I'll tell you though, my left hand, like I can't, like I am, and I don't know any, like I don't know any, and so like day one, but that didn't intimidate me. it really came down to life. Like I had this trip, I went to Idaho, and then I got some other stuff that I'm doing. And so out of the 10 weeks, literally would have missed half. Right. And then I couldn't have made it up just because, again, I'm an in-person learner. Right. And like, he actually was willing to accommodate, like, hey, I can send you a video, man. Like, I'm doing stuff here in the office. I wasn't going to pick the guitar up and do it myself.
Well,
yeah.
Because I really didn't know there wasn't anything but country and western until I was like a freshman in high school, because that's what my parents listened to. You know, I mean,
right.
And there's AM radio. You know, I was an '80s kid too. You know, but
right.
Once I got to high school, my mom and dad found out there was Motley Crue, there was Twisted Sister, Quiet Riot.
Oh, see, but I'm Depeche Mode. Yeah. I'm a Depeche Mode, The Cure. My wife is an Echo and the Bunnymen, and she's like, Echo and the Bunnymen, what the hell? The Smiths, Morrissey singing. Oh my God.
The Violent Femmes, you know. I became a punk guy for a while, you know, and you aren't gonna. I mean, it's funny. We're listening to something.
I had parachute pants.
Me too.
The old school nylon. I had parachute pants. Hell yeah.
The only thing I didn't have, and I've never. I mean, I had. My top of my head has always been a little thin, but I did have long hair at one time, about like Ricky's.
I've always had. I've been institutionalized. I've always had, like, I probably came out with this hair, and I'll die with this hair.
High and tight.
Yeah, right. I go to a barber and I'm like, hey, she's great, but yeah, it's always, yeah.
You know, I always dreamt about the hair coming over my head, but it never did, you know.
So again, I keep this guitar in the office just for the sheer fact of, like, that's why I wanted it to be on my list, as I would love to learn, because I would, who was the band? Living Color, Cult of Personality.
There you go.
1989. I'm in Ocean City, Maryland, my senior week with all my high school buddies, and I have a broom in my hand playing a guitar, and I put a T-shirt around, and I was swinging my head around, jamming out the Cult of Personality by Living Color.
There you go.
Still remember
awesome. That. Yeah, man. Keep at it. Honestly, with the guitar, because like I'm not like good by any means, but when I was in college, I got the bug, and I went a few years with, like, I didn't have a day go by that I didn't pick up my guitar. And when you start getting those chords down, and when you start to be able to move and transition, it's such a cool thing. It's really cool. And then once that happens, then it gets even. Then you get
And that's the thing. Those notes and chords, like learning music, that's a big part. Yeah.
And now all you got me thinking about is Dire Straits' Money for Nothing, because I can hear that guitar going right now. It's buzzing in my
so
head.
Many good,
yeah. I mean, really, kids don't understand what the 80s were like for music. It was awesome.
You know, no. Well, and just even again, I'm Christian, and I mean, I'll listen to some stuff, blah blah blah. But music nowadays, right? But in the 80s, what 80s movie? I mean, 16 Candles. I mean, the Breakfast Club is probably the hardest in language, right? But that's still what I think nowadays, PG-13, right? Like, okay.
And you go to stadiums. This is the coolest thing. When you go to a stadium, like a baseball game, football game, whatever, 80s music is predominantly played because everybody knows it.
It's clean. And it's clean. It's rocking and it's clean. Yeah, exactly.
That's where all the Gen Zers just dropped off and went to the next podcast.
Well, I'm still I'm at Linkin Park. I mean, I do Linkin Park, Five Finger Death Punch. I mean, Alice in Chains and blah blah blah. Right, that kind of stuff. But like, I got a friend. Yeah, Matt? Matt was at BRCC. He's a friend of Paul's too. He'll listen to some like Guar. And Rick, actually, when I say, do you know what Guar? Do you know the band Guar? No,
I know who it is.
Yeah, Rick. So I'm going to give you a taste. You ready? And if Guar's listening to it, like, I don't want to. I'm not offending them, hopefully, but it's just it's very, very vocal, loud.
It's to each their own. We'll say that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and they wear really cool costumes.
It's like Kiss. Rick, you know Kiss. They're like a Kiss. Yeah, it's the Kiss costumes. Yeah, it's crazy.
But yeah, and I mean, now I predominantly listen to like Red Dirt and kind of music, and I listen. That's just me predominantly because I've mellowed out, a little bit. But when a Motley Crue or any of those '80s bands, like I said, I listen to a lot of different, the Ramones.
Well, that's what my Pandora is. Like if I do Alexa, I do Alexa play Depeche Mode radio on Pandora. Alexa play Linkin Park radio on Pandora. Or usually my third one is Alexa play 80s rock on Pandora. Like those are my three.
And I hate to say this, I don't really hate to say this, but if we're talking about ex-girlfriends, it's interesting because I had an ex-girlfriend in high school that I love Sade's voice. It's so smooth. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
I don't even know if anybody'd know who Sade was anymore,
No, probably not. Yeah.
But she has a smooth, she has that smooth voice that in that day and age, that was really good. So, yeah. And she kind of got me into more mellower stuff. Cause like I said, I was wanting to go to college and play football. So you're listening to Def Leppard, you're listening to AC/DC, you're getting pumped up to go work out and play football or whatever else. So, yeah. But my last question is, what's the good life, Dan Horgan?
So while it's not necessarily retirement, you know what the good life is? A mountain cabin, a lake mountain cabin. So a cabin on a lake in the mountains. That's the good life. That is the good life right there. Yeah. And that could be Montana, Idaho, right? Made up in your head, but that is phenomenally right. If I look off into the distance, is just seeing that cabin on a lake in the mountains is it, right? And then you could go like not a rabbit hole, but add in, right, just being able to call friends, right, just still have friends that are around that'll pick up, and BS with them like that right there. And then I'll make a joke just because again I got friends of mine when they're listening, and then nice Coors Light, just have a Coors Light in your hand. Coors Light in your hand, sitting there at that cabin on the lake in the mountains, talking to friends on the phone. I mean, that right there. And then now I'm gonna add, and then, so I can't. I'm not a big so I did this trip, and I'm not. But then I would say, and then my wife's sitting next to me, right? So there we go. There's the picture.
And the guitar.
Wife. God, now we're just right. Wife, guitar, rocking chairs, lake, mountains, Coors Light, and on the phone with friends.
And then you FaceTime and you have that elk target out there and you shoot it with your bow.
And that would be the other thing they would joke about, because being the old guy, so I really love FaceTiming. And I'll FaceTime people.
I do that sometimes.
Or people now will FaceTime me and I'll answer, and I might be on the toilet, but I'll keep the phone obviously PG.
Yeah.
Paul, I'll tell you, I think I think Paul and I have probably FaceTime each other on the toilet, and then my friend Kayla used to be at BRCC with me as well. We actually still FaceTime each other sometimes on the toilet.
There you go.
But that's friendship. That goes, and that it would say when you said FaceTime, like sit in the cabin, that's what it is, right? Being able to sit there and have that, right? Just have that relationship still. It could be years, or it could be days or months. It doesn't matter what it is. And just be able to pick it back up. That's one of the things. Yeah, even as we close out, I tell you, like all my friends, and that's something for me is, and we kind of even mentioned when we first started, is just friends, right? Having like friends all over, and then still being able to reach out to them is just something that is just killer. Has been awesome for me. That's something that I usually try for. Right? If I work somewhere and I still have friends there after we're both even not employees or whatever, they're like, okay, that's friendship. Yeah, it wasn't just a work relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think I mean, you have some friends that you want to. It's fun to have them over for an hour, but after that, it's time to go. But it's fun to have those friends that I'm excited for you to come to the house, and I don't really want
Yeah.
to see you leave. I mean,
Right.
yeah, I mean, I've been on trips with friends that you're with them for 4 or 5 days, and then it feels like you're losing an arm when they go home.
Yeah.
I mean, because you're just that good of a friend, and those are the people that I think Ricky and you have surrounded yourself with. Those friends that it's sad to see you go, but we can pick up and we'll keep on moving forward the next time we see each other.
No, 100%. And that's, yeah. I mean, and again, you can be friendly to people, you can have acquaintances, and they're not necessarily less, right? But then there's those that elevate it and take it to that level. Exactly what you're saying. Just like, hey man, I haven't seen you in 10 years. And it's like, it feels like, yesterday, I mean, my friends from high school, my old partners from Baltimore, Adam, he's still in the Baltimore PD. And I mean, I probably haven't physically seen Adam, like, I don't even know, years. But I texted him, like last, Wednesday, like, hey, like, cause again, it's thinking about him, right? Hey, what you doing? Right. And even text. I'll tell you, social media, like, we can go down a even that. I don't know if we're going to end it, but social media is, I think, a little bit of the same way. If used it correctly, social media is really a way to keep up with friends, but to meet friends. I mean, there's people, right? Some that we haven't really mentioned, like LinkedIn. LinkedIn's one of my really big favorites, and that people laugh about. But I would tell you, man, like there's people I haven't physically met on LinkedIn, but we usually will comment or even DM and each other back and forth. Who I'm sure eventually, if I ever meet them in person, it's going to be like, bro, sister, like, what's up? Yeah, like, and them
because
like you're not getting catfished.
Yeah, but I truly believe that if you use the social media in the right way, you do meet friends, and you do
100%.
And that's where I think when you always hear the negative about social media, I hate the one thing I hate about social media, and I'll tell you, it's not the social media part. It's when people say, you know what, social media is so negative, I'm getting off and I'll talk to you later. And then one
Yeah.
day later, they're back on. And
Yeah.
don't tell me you're getting off either. And it can't be that bad if, it's the friends that you
That's a
have.
pet peeve. Yeah. That's a pet peeve of mine. I'm going to take a break from social media for about a month. Great. And again, but it goes back to, now we're bullying that, not bullying, but you know what I'm saying? Now I'm making a judgment on that person.
Yeah.
But I would tell you that is one of the, like, just get off of it. Like, I don't need an announcement. I got it. Right. But whatever.
No. So,
and it is good for mental health. Like, I get a lot of the mental health stuff again, but I think it's, people don't drink. I don't have a problem with drinking, and people obviously be the first to say, well, that's the first sign when you say you don't have a problem. But I can tell you, I can pour a Coors Light down the drain, right? If I don't, I'm not, right? And when people have a drinking problem, they go like, I drink it.
Yeah.
Which I don't mean to make fun of too, right? I mean, alcoholism is a thing, but social media is the same way. Like, a lot of things can be addictive and get to you, but then it's just not, it's mental health. My wife and I actually were talking about we were talking about suicide, but we were talking like in like the topic of suicide. And I've never, yeah, right. Like, I'm fine. I've never had suicidal thoughts, and my wife and I, Bethany, we've been married 23 years, and last night's the first time I've ever asked her. I go, "Have you ever thought about suicide?" We've never, and I don't know where it came from. And actually, I know where it came from. I was reading all about the news and the assassin kid, whatever his name is, right, from the Trump stuff. And yeah, and I asked her that, and she was like, "No, actually, I haven't." And I was like, "I get it," and I personally never have, and so it's something difficult to think of. I've told, and I'm not making a joke, but it's going to sound like a joke, and it's going to come out like a joke. But like, I've always told, and I've told a therapist, like, I'd be homicidal over suicidal, which means I'm not homicidal either, but it's just one of those things. Yeah, I just never. Yeah, and so, but social media can get into your head, like, alcohol can get into your head, and all these things can come. And I understand those, and they're there, and I'm not making fun of them by any means, but luckily, right, for me, like I haven't ever had that. So the social media for me and drinking a Coors Light's all been in the moderation and going and down the right path and used for good.
Well, and I also think, but I think, we are us three here right now. I think I know for me personally is I can look at social media and I can look at your page. I can look at Ricky's page. I can look at anybody that I follow's page. And I'm not jealous about what they're doing. And I'm not trying to keep
Sure.
up with what you are doing. I know where I'm at and I know what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say if you want to go to the opera, and you want to post something about the opera and you're having a good time at it, I'm happy for you. But
Sure.
it's
Right.
not something I want to do, or
Yeah.
or whatever. And I think people get caught up in trying to keep up with people, and I'm living my
It
life,
is.
and I'm just putting it out there to say, you can do that too.
It is. I had a guy, I call him a friend. Someone reached out to me on LinkedIn, DM'd me and was having a rough patch, right? And it was late at night. But the comment he made was a little bit about me, like, man, I see what you're doing. And I was like, put the brakes on. I was like, bro, I'm a dumpster fire. Like, don't, like, I'm a positive dumpster fire at times, but like, I mean, crap, again, there's radical transparency. I complain a lot, right? I can be grumpy. I can be mean, right? And I mean, but I also I am very nice and I'm caring and stuff like that. But I was just like, and I do some things that are kind of cool too. But I was just like, bro, like that's not every day. I go, so please, and that's what I told him. I said, please, like, what you were just saying, Rick, is like, don't think, oh, Dan Horgan's got it together. I was like, no, Dan Horgan's
Yeah.
a dumpster fire. Like, he just might be a really pretty dumpster fire with some fireworks inside the dumpster going off. But I was just like, no, do not. Yeah. And then I say that and it was being true because my wife looked at me because I was reading the thing to her and she was like, and I was just like, well, I don't lie on social media. It's not like I'm sitting there saying like, oh man, I went and had coffee with, I don't know, I had coffee with Trump the other day or what, I mean, whatever, right? Like, I don't know if that's exciting to people or not, but I mean, I'm not making anything up, but it's just, if I go on a trip, I go on a trip. But, on the same token, you can't be Eeyore. I can't,
No.
be like, oh my God, I've gone through 6 jobs in 2 years. Now I've told people that, but again, on social media, you have to scroll through eventually where Dan said that, not so great thing in his life. But if you don't see that, yeah, then you see all, if you get 1 out of 20 and it's negative, like, I like a ratio. Like I like, again, to be positive and to be creative and give some kind of advice. But like, same thing, people listen to this, right? And be like, oh man, like, no, like that should be, Ricky, that should be the intro. Like, do this. No, my life is a dumpster fire. And then you can intro with that and then go, it's, but I have a loving mother. I have a loving wife and 4 kids. My daughter's a grown adult. She's 29, but you're right. I have people who love me and I know that. Right. And I believe in God. Like there's all these great things, but yeah, I mean, make no mistake. Like I go to therapy on Wednesdays. And, right? The VA gave me a rating for some of the stuff that I've done. Like it's not all. Yeah.
It's kind of like, I mean, the other Monday, I mean, I want to, I mean, I try to put a sunrise out every day and say something inspirational,
Yeah.
but
Right.
on Monday it was cloudy. Not every day is going to be sunshine and smiles.
Nope.
There's going to be days that we have to pick ourselves up. And yes, I mean, some days I'm a hot mess myself, and
Yeah.
you're trying to figure out how to do whatever, how am I going to be able to go on this trip, or if I want to go, or how am I going to save, or what am I going to do, or how am I going to pay that bill, or whatever, you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
I just got done fixing my pickup and now something else broke down. When is it going to stop, kind of thing? You know what I mean? That, when am I not going to piss off my wife? I don't know, but she stays
Yeah.
with me.
Well, there's tons of things, or I mean, and again, it's some people don't have a job. Oh my God, I've been without a job for 4 months. There's people in a job going like, I hate my job, but I can't get a new one, or, I'm trying to, and yeah, like every day, like and again, that's a little bit, and I'm not a doctor, therapist, or anything, but the suicide portion of it is, and like the boot campaign's a really good nonprofit, and like their slogan, their motto is the "You Matter," and that's what really, like every day, like again, I'm just trying to be inspiring now as we talk, is just that, like you're not alone, man. Like a lot of every people, are going through some things, right? And just make it to the next day.
And that's what Ricky and I have tried to do too, like say, and I tried to, everybody matters out there. And that is the biggest thing in life, is to know that, I mean, there's people out there that care about you, even though you don't think they are, that, at times. And so always, you matter, whoever you are out there,
Yeah, like just never give up. I mean, it's not gonna be easy, sure, right? I mean, but like you just can't give up. I mean, and I don't know. We could sit there and that. Like I know, like with Paul, you guys did 2 episodes, right? Because Paul was talking about a lot of stuff, and it is. But you can just sit there and you just, God, but that's what people need. Like people need to hear that, and so. I'm not a huge podcaster, really, right? Listening to a lot of them, but like, I'll see some stuff, and I really love when I do, when I hear and you see someone putting out that message. Again, not that I need it, right? But there's people that need it.
Because
absolutely,
I like people to tell me that I can't do anything, because then I give them the middle finger and try to prove them wrong. I mean, it's just one of those. That's my personality.
Are you still? So I'm not like that anymore. Like, so I got to go to a family day with my wife on Thursday. So an Air Force, a family day. And my middle son and he and I are going to play pickleball together. And it's going to be a competition. And he's like, yeah, we gotta make it through the rounds. And I'm like, I don't care if I lose in the first round on the pickleball. And he's like, I need you not to have that mentality. And I told him Matthew's his name. And I was like, Matt, bro, like your dad's just not, like, I'm not trying to be up on the podium anymore these days. Like, like I like winning. I go, but I'm not, I'm not that dude anymore.
I got to twist an ankle or something. That pickleball, man, it gets pretty intense.
It does. No, I know. We played for his birthday, and so now he thinks he's some pickleball champion. So, and then my wife, for her family day, entered us as a team, and so he's serious about it.
It's pretty cool.
And it's not that competitive. Like that's why I like tax, because they aren't competitive, and we can go.
No. Oh, and I make people clear, because they'll call it like a competition, and I'm like, no. Yeah, the word challenge is in there. I go, but it's not a competition. It is not a competition. But they just started last year or 2 years ago. They just started handing out the little, I make fun of it, like the mini golf cards.
Yeah.
Like keeping score. And I was just like, no.
There, the competition is like sometimes whose arrow blew up the bit most, because nobody ever remembers your good shots.
No one cares about that 12 ring. They're like, oh, cool story. People want to know, oh, I shot that 106 yard that hit the rock exactly, and carbon fiber went everywhere.
Exactly. We like explosions,
Yeah.
So. Well, I'm gonna thank you so much for joining us tonight and having just a fun conversation. Like I said, we never know where we're going to go with this, and it was fun.
Sure. Thanks. Yeah. No, I'm so happy that you were able to reach out and I was able to be on.
I am too. And so it's cool,
It's really been pretty cool. I like you were talking about LinkedIn earlier, right? And so I was a couple of years ago, I got really serious about LinkedIn, and somehow I ended up, you and I connected on there. And so just even through your presence on LinkedIn, I feel like I know you, you know what I mean? Yeah. But now, and I just wanted to say, thanks for, sharing some of the things that you did, you know, and
Sure.
some of those vulnerabilities, because, you know, I think that's one of the things that, you know, there's that stigma, and we've talked about this, Rick Lacey and stuff too, you know, just, it's okay to talk about what's going on with you, you know what I mean? Like, and at the same time, you know what I mean? Like, I hear you too. Like, I don't want people to like put me on this pedestal either. Like, you know, me growing up in the technological age and then without the technological age, like, I have the mindset of knowing that, you know, everybody has their struggles, you know what I mean? To your point, you know, there's some people, they get into that thing where they think like, so these people have just like the perfect life and there's nothing where, you know, everything's great, and you aspire to be that and wish that you could be that. And that's just not realistic to think that way. But just really cool that, you know, you and I connected a long time ago and have never really spoken to each other until today. And then just like we've talked about how these relationships just foster one another, and eventually down the road, it kind of weaved into this deal where, you know, I decided I was going to go take a creative route, and then you made decisions, and then Rick made a bunch of decisions, and now here we are. We're doing the Don't Die Rusty podcast. And if there was one other decision we had made to go in a different direction, we would be talking about it today. So super cool, man. A lot of fun to talk with you, and appreciate, like I said, you, your honesty and being vulnerable and talking about, you know, what people can do to not die rusty, and man, just keep doing what you're doing. It's awesome.
Thanks, Ricky. Yeah, I heard that the other day. It's okay not to be okay. Right. Yeah. I don't know who. Yeah. And that's like a motto, probably 2024 and on. Like, it's okay not being okay.
Well said. Well said.
And when we do our recap for the next 10 episodes, I'm going to introduce it. This is Rick Hansen, and my life's a hot mess.
Right. Just be honest. I mean, right?
So I wrote that down here, so I remember it.
Yeah.
So, but thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Being on, and maybe we'll have to have a 4-way chat and have Eric, Paul on too.
Yeah.
Oh man, that would be. So I tell you, you start doing some group ones. That'd be Paul and I. Paul was at. Yeah, that'd be a good one. We might have to. It could be some edits maybe, but yeah, it'd be a good one.
So no, maybe we'll have that virtual campfire or something. You know.
I have a solo stove in the backyard with some little seats around it.
Yeah, there you go. Sounds good.
All right.
Well, thank you so much for the conversation.
Yeah, Ricky, it was a pleasure.
Thanks,
I do.
Man.
I seriously appreciate it. I know, God, it's been almost 2 hours. I feel like a Rogan episode, but yeah, thanks for having me on, and and hopefully can provide value to somebody. Yeah,
that's right.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you, Dan, for being with us, and as we always say, keep chasing your dreams and don't die rusty.
Have a good day, everybody.